This is the Daily Medical News by MD Edge, where we bring you the latest 4 stories in medicine, followed by a closer look at the day's top story, straight to your earbuds, smart speaker, or your commute. If you want to learn more about any of the stories you hear today, there are links to the stories in the podcast notes. Today is Monday, September 16th. I'm the voice of MD Edge Podcasts, Nick Andrews. We begin today with an FDA advisory panel recommendation to approve the so-called peanut pill. The capsule, which is designed to desensitize children and adolescents who are allergic to peanuts, could be on the way. The FDA's Allergic Products Advisory Committee voted to recommend approval of the AR101 peanut protein capsules, which are marketed under the trade name Palforzia. Palforzia would be for use as oral immunotherapy in patients between 4 and 17 years who have confirmed peanut allergy. The vote comes with the condition that both the black box warning and medication use guide are included in the packaging. It should be noted that the FDA typically follows the recommendations of its respective advisory panels. The panel voted by a count of 7-2 that the drug is effective and by a count of 8-1 that the drug is safe. The lone no vote came from Dr. John Kelso. Dr. Kelso said he was concerned about the dearth of long-term follow-up and Aimmune Therapeutics' body of research and the finding that children who received the treatment during dose escalation and maintenance periods had twice the number of allergic reactions requiring epinephrine compared with patients who received placebo. He pointed out that there are no long-term safety data to rely on. However, in the discussion, other committee members pointed out that new drugs are often approved without long-term efficacy and safety data. They also noted that these data are extrapolated from clinical trials and only real-world experience will confirm. Palforzia comes in individual packs of capsules filled with peanut protein, not flour. The capsules come in doses of 0.5, 1, 10, 20, 100, and 300 milligrams. A single dose sachet contains 300 milligrams. Treatment begins with between 0.5 and 6 milligrams over 1 day and then escalates every 2 weeks until 300 milligrams is reached or until there is a reaction requiring epinephrine. Passing at least a 300 milligram dose was the requirement for exiting the escalation phase and moving on to the daily year-long maintenance phase. The 4 efficacy studies presented showed that 96% of patients tolerated 300 milligram, 84% tolerated 600 milligram, and 63% tolerated 1,000 milligrams, about 10 times the reactive dose observed in the placebo controls. Company representatives did not explicitly address the potential cost of the therapy, but a recent review by the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review estimated that the cost would be $4,200 a year. Palforzia would have to be taken every day for an unknown amount of time to maintain peanut tolerance. In a publicly released analysis, the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review wrote that using prices from analysts for AR101, they estimated that only 41% of eligible patients could be treated in a given year without exceeding budget impact threshold. And for postmenopausal women with osteoporosis, a high dose of teriparatide in combo with denosumab increases bone mineral density. This is according to new data from the DATA-HD study published in the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology. The investigators noted that previous findings showed a combo of teriparatide and denosumab increased bone mineral density and estimated bone strength more than the drug did on their own. In an effort to examine how dosing impacted this finding, researchers randomly assigned 76 postmenopausal women with osteoporosis to receive either 40 micrograms of daily teriparatide or 20 micrograms of the drug each day. At 3 months, patients in both groups were also started on 60 milligrams of denosumab every 6 months. The researchers report that at the 15-month follow-up, areal bone mineral density had increased in both study groups, in all measured sites, which were lumbar spine, femoral neck, total hip, and distal radius. They also report that more than 17% of patients in the high-dose group had an increased average lumbar spine mineral density compared with less than 10% in the standard dose group. There was also a greater increase in the average areal bone mineral density in the femoral neck and in total hip for patients in the high-dose group. The authors did note the limitations of their study, such as the single-center nature of the study and the small patient population. Ambulatory systolic daytime blood pressure load predicted cardiovascular target organ damage in children, specifically diastolic dysfunction and arterial stiffness. Blood pressure load is the amount of time spent above the 95th blood pressure percentile for age and height. This is according to an investigation from the American Heart Association Strategically Focused Research Network. In the study, researchers included 339 healthy adolescents with an average age of about 15 and a half years at 6 different sites across the United States. Researchers averaged office blood pressure over 6 readings during 2 visits, and ambulatory pressure was taken every 20 minutes over 26 hours. Overall, 215 subjects spent less than 25% of their time at the 95th percentile and were classified as low load. 62 participants were above that mark between 25 and 50% of the time. These were the mid-load group, and another 62 participants were over that mark at least half of the time. These were the high-load group. Dr. Elaine Urbina led the study. She said that if she saw a child with only a mild elevation of mean ambulatory blood pressure, but they had an increased load, it would prompt her to order an echo to look for target organ damage. She said that could lead her to change her therapy from lifestyle to medication. Although the findings don't indicate clinically relevant cardiovascular damage, children with higher loads seem to be heading in that direction. The Daily Medical News will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Daily Medical News. I'm Nick Andrews. The FDA warns that some ranitidine medicines, including Zantac, contain a carcinogen known as N-nitrosodimethylamine, or NDMA. Dr. Janet Woodcock is director of the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. In a prepared statement, she said that NDMA is a known environmental contaminant and is found in water and foods, including meats, dairy products, and vegetables. She also said that the FDA has been investigating NDMA and other nitrosamine impurities in blood pressure and heart failure medicine called angiotensin II receptor blockers since last year. In the case of ARBs, as these medications are called, the FDA has recommended numerous recalls as it discovered unacceptable levels of nitrosamines. Dr. Woodcock said that the agency is working with industry partners to determine whether these low levels of NDMA in ranitidine pose a risk to patients, and it plans to post that information when it becomes available. However, for now, patients should be able to trust that their medicines are as safe as they can be and that the benefits of taking them outweigh the risk to their health. And finally today, men and women react differently to common drugs that are used to treat heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. This is according to new data published from Europe in The Lancet. In the study, the researchers also point out that women may be able to safely cut their doses in half and still get the same level of relief that they got from larger doses. The researchers noted that current guidelines for the use of ACE inhibitors or angiotensin receptor blockers and beta blockers for men and women with heart failure do not differentiate between the genders. This comes despite findings showing that with the same dose, the maximum plasma concentration of ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and beta blockers were up to more than 2 times higher in women than in men. The researchers also point out that women are much more likely than men to suffer side effects from medications, and those side effects tend to be severe. These findings are the results of an ad hoc analysis of the findings from a prospective study of patients with heart failure EF reduced ejection fraction who took drugs in 3 classes. Patients were receiving suboptimal medication doses at the start of the study, and physicians were encouraged to increase their medications. The median follow-up for the primary endpoint was 21 months. The researchers report that in men, the lowest hazards of death or hospitalization for heart failure occurred at 100% of the recommended dose of ACE inhibitors or ARBs and beta blockers. But women showed about 30% lower risk at only 50% of the recommended doses, with no further decrease in risk at higher dose levels. They also report that these sex differences were still present after adjusting for clinical covariates, including age and body surface area. The researchers analyzed a registry in Asia of more than 3,500 men and about 1,000 women to compare their findings. They found nearly identical numbers. In an accompanying editorial, Heather Whitley, PharmD, noted that the study, which was the first of its kind, was indeed well executed and does raise important questions. However, the study did not take into account the prevalence of adverse events or the serum concentrations of the various medications. And that concludes the edition of the Daily Medical News for Monday, September 16th. For MD Edge, I'm Nick Andrews.